Welcome to the Steve and Bethany podcast.
It's your weekly dose of hope, encouragement, and a whole lot of fun.
All right, let's get to it.
It's episode 6.
All right, welcome to the Steve and Bethany Hopecast, everyone. We are glad that you have pulled up wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch it on YouTube. We appreciate you joining us. And we want to start the program with something very, very fun. It's our first
Ever
contest.
contest.
Where's the button? No, that's not it.
Not that noise.
Not that. Where's the contest? Yes, that's the one I wanted. That's the one I wanted.
We're super pumped about this.
Yes.
We're offering you the chance to not only win, but also give. It's a kind of a get one, give one type thing with a $50 Amazon gift card for you and a $50 Amazon gift card for a friend. And then 2 customized tumblers from Victory Rivers with an S Customs. Did I get that right?
You got that right. And these custom mugs or cups are very, very nice.
They're super cool.
They retail for about $35. And so you're going to get one absolutely free for yourself and one to give away along with those Amazon gift cards. And how do you register? Well, it's real simple.
All you have to do is go to steveandbethany.com. There's a little button there that'll say, register for the contest. You click on that, enter in your email. That's all you have to do.
That's right. We'll draw a winner in just a few weeks. And it's a get one, give one Amazon gift card and a tumbler from our friends over at Victory Rivers Customs, which you can find on Instagram, Victory Rivers Customs.
Yeah, if you kind of want to get an idea of what the tumbler is going to look like.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into today's Hopecast. We're talking about church, and more to the point, we're talking about getting back to church here after COVID-19, because you and I had a conversation just the other day off air about how your mom felt these butterflies and everything, getting ready to go back to the church for first time in months.
Yeah, so she came over, I guess it was maybe last week, yeah. And we were talking about getting back to church, and she was saying how much she'd miss being able to go to church. And so she said, it's kind of silly, but I have butterflies thinking about it, thinking about how great it will be to, just gather together and worship. And I just thought that's how everybody, I think, should view church. But it is something that I think can become so routine in our lives, where we've had to take a break for this pandemic, where everything's been shut down. It's really made me, at least, rethink church of, it's become so routine to me where it's like, well, of course you go to church. You don't even think about it. But then when you can't,
right,
it really kind of, I don't know, it's a little sobering of your view of church.
I think it is, absolutely. And I felt the same way. Now, I was a little bit different with the COVID-19 stuff because I'm on leadership staff at our church.
Right, you're a deacon.
So, yeah, I was able to go even when really nobody else was kind of allowed to go. But there was just something about going in, and even if it's only 5 of us in the room and the pastor talking to one of these cameras like right here and preaching the sermon, and not to a great congregation of people, but just those watching online, it was still something about being in God's house that was so different than being at home watching it, you know? And I think we missed that so much. But I think what's happened is a lot of people have tried to replace that, thinking, I will just go to online church and not go back to church as normal. Because look, a lot of our lives are going that way. A lot of people are not going to go back to work 5 days a week at the office. They're going to be able to do maybe 3 days a week at home.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of moving towards home, but I think that can be more dangerous for church than it can be a positive.
Well, I saw some stats the other day just talking about how many people are going back to church and how many people are watching online. And honestly, it was kind of just sad. I mean, I will say this, obviously, I don't have any problem with online church. I really don't. I think it's a great thing when you can't get to church, you're able to still watch and still, get something from the sermon and still be encouraged. So I don't have any problem with online church, but I do have a problem when it kind of, when people can go and just choose not to, because they're like, we'd rather maybe go to the lake and we'll just watch on the boat. That's fine. I don't know. I think that's the best part of church, is being able to fellowship and have community in person with other people. And that's one thing that online church will never have. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to sound harsh, but
no,
I just think.
I get it, because I think a lot of people would say, encounter to that, well, I can go to my boat, I'll turn on the online and I can worship there. My question always is, you can, but do you really?
Yeah.
Are you really able to worship where you just block out everything else and really focus in on the word and focus in on now maybe you can, but I still think that God created the church and set it up this way for a specific reason.
Yeah.
You know, I think had he wanted it to always be at home, it would have always kind of stayed that way. But I think he wants us to gather because I think it's so much the best of both worlds.
Right.
I think we get the fellowship and we get that encouragement to where, man, we're going through this life and it's hard, and especially when you're trying to live godly and you're trying to do the right thing all the time, and it seems like the rest of the world is just like they don't care and they're taking shortcuts, and you're trying to follow the way and nobody else is. You need that encouragement from other believers. But I think this on the other side of that coin is one of the huge reasons to be there is a worship that takes place when you have set aside a building and a time and you gather as a people together. God's in the midst of that. And not that he's not in other places, but there's just something special, something different.
Something special about it for sure. And I'll be the first to say online church is easier.
Oh, sure.
When we were kind of everything was locked down in the middle of COVID and we were doing church from home, doing online church, it was nice to be able to sit on my couch and drink my coffee in my pajamas and watch church. That was nice, you know, so I'll be the first to say that. But I think you're right. There's something really special about being able to gather together. And also, it's kind of some accountability, because when you're in your home or, you know, on the boat or wherever you might be watching online, there's more distractions. I think your phone is right here. And so you might be getting some text messages, or it's maybe a little tempting to scroll through Instagram while you're listening to the sermon, things like that, where when you're in church in person, you maybe wouldn't be as prone to do that, or wouldn't be as easily distracted. And I'm just preaching to the choir myself.
Sure. Oh,
right
no,
here.
absolutely. I feel you.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll be really interesting to see how people look at church going forward. And if they do kind of approach it with how my mom did, of having butterflies, of, man, I just can't wait to get back worshiping with other believers in person, gathering together in God's house. I can't wait for that. Or if it will kind of lean more towards well, you know, that takes some effort. We got to get the kids ready. I don't know. And it's just easier to stay home.
Right.
I wonder how that'll go.
I do too. But I had this conversation with a mutual friend of ours, Cody, not your husband, Cody Price.
Different Cody.
who is a pastor. And he said he really was optimistic that it would bring people back to church. But he also said something that I thought was really insightful. Is that, you know, in the book of Acts, that's where church started, was in homes, and people went from home to home. And he was saying, hopefully, that people will use this as a time to get, as we're forced to be quarantined together at home, to worship and to kind of prepare our hearts and get our homes right, so that when we come back together, it's even stronger and better than what it has been in the past. That was his hope. And I thought that was very insightful. And that's my prayer too. And I hope that it happens. Honestly, I haven't seen that yet, but I know we've just opened up, and I get it. But yeah, I mean, man, I sure hope that's the way it is.
Well, and I think it's a good opportunity to, even if your church hasn't opened back up yet, for maybe parents. I mean, I don't have kids, but I'm thinking for moms and dads that maybe want to take Sunday mornings and kind of set aside to create rhythms of reading the Bible together, maybe playing some worship music. Like, this is a good opportunity while some churches aren't yet open, to create a routine of worship on Sunday mornings, even when you can't go in person.
I absolutely. And I think that's what we need to do, and taking advantage of it. And then when your church opens up and you feel comfortable safety-wise, be back in church. Be back.
Okay, so if you're in business, one of the most successful things that you can do is to copy the model of those that are leading in the industry. And this is exactly how health insurance works. The big companies, they're going to charge you really crazy high monthly premiums. And then on top of that, you're required to meet an enormous deductible before your insurance even starts paying for anything. It's crazy, but it kind of seems like there's no other options, right?
Oh, contrary.
Okay.
There is another option. It's Pat Davis, yourhealthplanman.com. Listen to the way this works. Pat is trying to convince people and let people know that you can take control of your health care back. You can get off of this carousel that just keeps spinning around and around. You never get any progress made, and you feel like you're just throwing good money after bad all the time. Well, Pat's clients don't do that. They save up to 50% or more as far as premiums and deductibles with Pat's plans. Now, here's an example of how this works. Like, there was one of Pat's clients that had to go to see a specialist, right?
Okay.
So normally you go in and you have to pay a copay, whatever, $60, $100, whatever it was. Pat's client was able to go in, get the receipt from seeing the specialist, and instead of paying, actually got a check from the insurance company for $100 for the same procedure that you would have to pay a copay for under normal healthcare plans.
It kind of seems like too good to be true.
It really is, but that's because of the way it's been set up. The system has been set up to keep us on this carousel. So let's jump off the carousel and let's take control of our healthcare ourselves, and let's get with Pat Davis, yourhealthplanman.com, and he could save you some money.
Right. That's exactly what Pat wants for you, is to just put you back in charge over your health care. It's yourhealthplanman.com, yourhealthplanman.com. Check out Pat Davis. He's a great guy, really willing to help, and it won't take too much of your time.
Absolutely. And at worst case, that all it costs you is time.
Right.
You set up a time, talk with him, see how much money he can save you, and then go from there. And if it's not worth it, it's not worth it. But I'm telling you, you owe it to yourself to check it out, yourhealthplanman.com. Okay, I thought we would have a fun little segment now where Bethany and I are big podcast fans.
We are.
We listen to all kinds of people, all kinds of different podcasts. And we thought it would be neat to be able to introduce you to some of those people who do podcasts other places.
Right. Yeah. Just kind of outside of Arkansas even. And so we're going all the way to Georgia.
Yeah.
Kim Fitz is one of our favorite people. We know her from back in our old radio days. Kim is a sweet friend of ours, but she's also been doing a podcast called Trails and Testimonies. And I think it's so cool what she's doing. She's going to be joining us with her little guy, Sammy. So, so sweet.
So let's bring them in right now. Jarvis, load it up. There they are.
Yay!
Welcome, Kim and Sammy. How are you?
How are you guys?
We're good. How are you?
We're doing good. Okay, so introduce us to the little guy with you.
Do what?
I said, can you introduce us to the little guy that's with you?
Yes. Say, my name is Samuel.
My name is Samuel, and watch this, okay? It's going to be very funny.
Okay, we're ready.
That's really good.
Nice dance moves.
That's
I like
really
it.
good. For those of you that are listening to the podcast, Sam is in front of the computer screen and he's lifting his arms up and down, up above his head, and
doing all
he's
kinds of
doing
dances.
all kinds of dances. So he's looking really sharp. So very good. So Kim, welcome. We're glad that you're here. Now you do a podcast called Trails and Testimonies. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, it's Trails and Testimonies, and it is actually just launched earlier this winter, spring, like in February.
Okay.
So right before the coronavirus and everything happened, I felt like it was a great time.
Yeah, you had no idea that a global pandemic was coming. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and the genesis of the thing is that you actually take people out to like nature trails and just get out in nature and conduct interviews with them.
I do. And you know, they take me to their favorite trail. So the concept was actually birthed when my mom and we would always go up to Dahlonega in the wintertime, and we would hit the really cute mom and pop shops, and you'd get these cute little trinkets for whomever you had left on your list.
Okay.
And we would hike for the other part of the day. So we're hiking part of the Appalachian Trail. And
for those who don't know where that is, give us a little description of what part of Georgia you're in.
Oh, okay. So, well, actually the Appalachian Trail runs from, and some people call it the AT, it runs from Maine all the way to Georgia.
Oh, okay.
And so it's quite an extensive trail, and some people have actually hiked the entire thing.
Wow.
I don't know if I could do that.
No, definitely not me.
So my mom and I met this guy. He had this huge backpack on, and it was fairly empty. And he, you know, hikers, especially back then, this was years ago. This is before I had my amazing son. He's 4. So back then, before the social distancing and everything, hikers would just talk to each other. And so we just started talking to this guy, and he just got out of the military, and he hiked to clear his head from Maine, like I said, all the way down to Georgia. And it was literally his last hike. It was his last stop, his last lunch is when we met him. And I thought, how cool. His story really needs to be told. And then whenever we would hike, you're starving. And so we would always go down to these mom and pop shops and eat, whatever kind of sandwiches, and the little ice cream shops that are just so cute and so great. And I thought trails and treats would be really cool. And you could feature the trail, and then you could feature a treat, the sandwich or the ice cream or whatever.
Right.
And come to find out that already existed.
Oh, no.
No way. Seriously?
It's not about the same thing. It doesn't have the same concept, but it is a dog treat company. So,
Oh.
Yeah, so that kind of spoils it for you a little bit.
Yeah.
I know.
So you had to kind of go a little bit broader then, I guess, in the concept.
Well, so it took a break for years. I thought, what a cool idea. What a great concept. Whatever. It's like, there's no point in doing it since that name's taken. Well, when you're going to sleep and you're in that fog of almost asleep, but not, and I always call it a fog. And that's when I feel like God can speak to me too, because I'm actually calm for once.
Right.
And I promise you, I heard a voice. I heard him tell me, like it was a whisper, trails and testimonies. And I thought, that's really cool. That's a good idea. And I don't even know what time it was, like, midnight or 1. I hopped up, I got a notepad, and I started taking all these notes of like what I could do and the podcast. But then how do you record in the middle of the woods when your cell phone doesn't have signal?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it took another couple of years to even figure out how I could do that, to overcome your fear.
Right.
Because just like what you guys were talking about on your last episode was perfectionism, and it'll put a stop to the coolest projects,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
and it's not the gift from God. It's not a gift at all, but it's just that embodiment of fear.
Right.
And it'll consume you. And it really did. It consumed me to even start this podcast, of what other people would think of. Would I even be doing it justice? Would I be doing it,
The same
these
questions, same things we went through ourselves.
Exactly, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. So I jumped out there, and it was, and I say February, and I'm pretty sure that was the first episode was February.
It all
But I
kind of
believe-
blends together.
It really does. But I started recording the episodes when the weather was so great earlier that fall. So it was released in February, but I'd already started working on the project. So then the COVID happened, and you can't hike with anyone. You have to be distant from everyone. Nobody can hike with you. And so it's really been very challenging, but God told me to do it. And so I'm not stopping.
And
Yeah.
here's what's cool about your show that I really enjoy listening to is hearing people's stories in depth, because
Mhm.
everybody has a story and everybody's story is different. So whether you know someone, like, for instance, I know your first episode was with Taylor from the Kevin and Taylor show there on the Fish Atlanta. And so Taylor's kind of a big name and people know her and will tune in. But then some of your more recent episodes that I've listened to, I mean, I may not know their names, but boy, after about 20 minutes, you really get to know that person and how their journey from not knowing God to their faith in God is just amazing.
Well, and I think too, the concept is so unique because you're taking people maybe into a situation where they may be a little bit more comfortable to share something so personal like their testimony, just out in nature, kind of doing something casual like hiking with you. I just think that's such a unique way of getting people relaxed, because so often, I mean, we all know this as interviewing people in our past. Sometimes that can be a real challenge, getting people to relax enough to answer your questions and kind of be natural and be themselves. And so I think that's such a cool idea that the Lord gave you, and like props to you for following through on that and not letting that fear or the perfectionism kind of hold you back. I think that's awesome.
And Bethany, I can hardly hear you.
Oh no.
No, it's okay. I caught most of that.
Okay.
But in the video, I'm like leaning and I'm like, but right. And it's, it's hard to just get someone into that comfort zone anyway of telling your testimony.
Yeah.
Because for me, and I know for a lot of other people, okay, 1 second.
That's going.
Sam making another appearance.
That mean old troll hurt me. So
Are you okay?
Yes. So then I got bad stuff to him, like hit him.
Yeah, we don't get that. Okay. I love you. Go watch Curious George. I'll be in there.
That's so fun.
Part of my testimony, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
And okay, so I wanted to make sure he was inside. and I do try to keep the podcast PG. However, with everybody's testimony, like what we were just talking about, for mine especially, and I know for other people, it can be dark,
Mhm.
you know, and you come out of that on a brighter and a better side, getting to know God and getting to have your actual relationship with him, not just a religion, but getting to know him because you've gone through so much and you kept hiking. That's what I always keep saying is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Stone Mountain, but Stone Mountain out here is huge. And it has some benches, has some spots where you sit down. And if you're hiking constantly uphill, you are just exhausted and you're going to want to sit down and you're going to take a breather, but you keep hiking to the top. And
Oh, I
that's
love
the
that.
point.
That's a great.
Mhm.
That's a great.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
But once you get to the top, the scenery and the feeling of accomplishment and what actually got you there, you know, and sometimes that perseverance, yes, it's physical, but it comes from God.
Well,
pushing you.
it's such a great podcast. I enjoy listening to it every week. It drops on Fridays. It's called Trails and Testimonies. Kim Fitz is the host of it. Now, you got a big announcement for this week, right?
I am very excited. I've not even done the interview yet. It is actually with my husband. He is not very social media, just like what Bethany has explained about her husband.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, where he's like, I don't want the spotlight. I don't want social media. I'm going to do my thing.
Yeah.
And over here, I'm so proud of you for doing your thing. But I don't really want to be a part of it. But so a quick short backstory on he and I, because he is a huge part, obviously he's my husband, of my testimony. But so he and I began dating when we were 13.
Ooh.
Mm.
And we dated honestly off and on until I started college my freshman year. And then we really didn't talk for it was almost 10 years. And the way that we reconnected and prayed for Samuel, and that's why he's named Samuel, is just a really beautiful story. And I'm really excited about going into depth with that on Friday. Hopefully he'll interview. Hopefully he won't back out.
No, he can't now. Now that you've
No.
teased it, now that
It's
it's gone out,
recorded.
it's recorded. Now he has to.
Yeah.
He absolutely has to. So, Kim,
Right.
thank you
And I'm
so
gonna
much.
let him-
Yeah, thank you
Oh.
so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening to our show on Thursday, it's tomorrow
Yeah.
that Kim's drops. Yes, tomorrow. Tomorrow. It's Trails and Testimonies. You can get it anywhere you get podcasts, right?
Yes, anywhere that you podcast, thefishatlanta.com, and you can go there. We have a Facebook page as well, Trails and Testimonies. You can follow us there, or you can follow me on Instagram at @TheKimFitz.
The Kim Fitz. All right. Hey, thanks so much. You were our first real celebrity interview. So thanks. Yeah, you did great.
Thank you so much, Kim.
No, that's Sam.
Thank you so much, Kim. Have a great day, okay?
Thank you so much. Love you guys.
Okay, so we want to take a minute and tell you all about Patreon. So if you haven't heard about Patreon, it is basically crowdfunding for podcasts. It's a great way to support your favorite podcast, but also you get a lot of really cool perks when you become a patron.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of tiers for you, but one of the things we're releasing to just our patrons only is some interviews that we have done with Christian music artists.
Jarvis, scroll.
This is what the Patreon page looks like when you go to patreon.com/Stephen Bethany Hopecast. Patreon.com/Stephen Bethany Hopecast. If you'll stop right there, Jarvis, there you see the two tiers. You get it ad-free, you get multi-camera, you get homemade desk art, which
Like
is
you see here.
on the front of the table here when the camera gets back to it. We also do a bonus episode a month. We get our classic videos, and then everybody on the All Access gets even more goodies, including a virtual coffee house that we'll be able to do really soon.
Yeah, so we just kind of hang out, talk a little bit about you, talk a little bit about us, get to know each other, and just really create a community around the Hopecast, because we do consider everybody that listens, but especially our patrons, people that are really being encouraging and supporting to this podcast. We consider you guys a part of the creative team.
Absolutely.
We want to hear your thoughts, your feedback, what you want to hear us talk about. That's really important to us. So as you can see that there's 2 different tiers, $5 a month, $15 a month, and there's
peanuts.
Yeah, just unique things that kind of come along with being a patron.
And one of the cool things is that we're releasing for some of our patrons this month is an interview we got to do with, are you ready?
Ready.
Chris Tomlin.
The original Chris Tomlin.
Yes, we got to
The
talk with him.
leader of the Christian music industry.
And you can find out from Chris Tomlin what he considers himself to be an expert in.
Besides music.
Besides music, that
Yeah.
doesn't count. He had to answer something different. So you want to hear that interview in its entirety? We spent about 7 or 8 minutes talking with him. He's just a phenomenal guy. You can get that exclusively at patreon.com/Stephen Bethany Hopecast.
One more time. That's patreon.com/Stephen Bethany Hopecast. Okay, so have you ever found yourself in a situation where you think you're prepared? You think you've thought through all the variables, you've thought through everything, and then you just get blindsided. And then you look up and you think, how did I get myself in this scenario?
That's about my life most
All the
days.
time?
All
Okay.
the time.
That's what happened to me this past weekend. I went to a wedding with my husband, and I was under the impression that it was going to be an indoor wedding. Because, because I looked up the venue and I thought, oh, okay, it's a really pretty venue. It's probably inside. I didn't even think about it really. So I put on a pair of heels, which that was my first mistake. I haven't worn heels in a couple months because, quarantine. So I haven't been wearing heels lately.
But you're not really a big heels person
not a heel
anyway, right?
person
Because you're
anyway.
kind of like the giraffe, the newborn giraffe.
I like
on
to think of
heels.
myself as a weeble wobble. I go like this, but I never fall down until this past weekend because so I wore my heels and I was feeling okay. We pull up to the venue and I can see chairs set up in a field. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to hike. Oh no. And so we were walking across this like graveled parking lot. I'm getting gravel in the heels. So I'm like shaking them out, as I'm walking and everything. We start hiking.
Just a picture of elegance.
Oh, yeah. She is beauty. She is grace. That's me. So we're walking across this field to go sit down, and there's already people sitting down. We got there a few minutes before the wedding started, so there's already a few people sat down. And we're walking across the field. For some reason, I couldn't stay upright. Like, I was really trying my best to just watch where I was going and everything, but I was kind of getting distracted because I was looking all around and I could feel my ankles just kind of wobbling a little bit. But I stayed upright, finally got down to the ceremony site, sat down.
So it was downhill?
It was downhill. That was the other
Wow.
part too. Not only was the ground a little uneven, it was downhill. So
Wow.
I'm like sidestepping, trying to get to my seat.
Did you use your husband as like a crutch?
Okay, that's another story. I love my husband dearly, but I was like, you got to support me. You got to hold me up. He said, it's not my fault you can't walk in heels. I said, okay, that's true, but at worst case, you need to just fireman carry me. Just throw me over your shoulder. That's what this needs to lead to. But no, so the couple got married. It was a beautiful ceremony. It was so pretty. And then the hike back. So
now it's uphill.
And we're going from the ceremony site back up to this really pretty like barn area for the reception, right? I found the one like 2-foot deep hole in the middle of the field. So I'm walking along, again, not really paying attention, kind of loosely holding on to my husband's hand, but I'm feeling overconfident for sure.
Right.
So I'm like walking. Next thing I know, literally my leg goes down in this hole. It's like 2 feet down. I feel my ankle twist sideways.
Oh, man.
I went all the way down, like all the way.
Like face plant?
Face plant.
No.
Just, but I bounced back up real quick.
Like, did anybody see that?
Yeah. I was like, I'm good, And I just started laughing because that was my natural embarrassed response. But my husband was like, I thought you just were getting the dancing started a little early. It looked like you just popped a dance move, like drop down real quick and pop back up. But I heard about that the whole drive home from
I'm sure you
the
did.
wedding. My husband told me, he was like, listen, I love you, but you can never wear those shoes ever again. You're not allowed. It's embarrassing and you can't do it.
Well, see, now if I was him, I would have probably been the opposite. That shows our personality differences
Okay.
because I would encourage you to do it more, and I would
For
encourage
more
other
falls?
people, yes, to like, hey, my wife's wearing heels today. Get the video ready. You know,
Yeah.
get your camcorder ready.
You
or
would.
Well, old camcorder. These days it'd just be your phone. Get your phone out. You know, because we're gonna have some fun today.
Here's the thing though, like my brother-in-law was there too. He's giving me a hard time laughing about it. And I was telling him, I said, you don't have any idea how difficult it is to walk in heels across grass. No one gets it.
No, I would completely agree.
Everyone feels like a baby giraffe doing it. It's not good.
I would have completely agree, but that's why, you know, I guess they just didn't invent heels for men.
Heels were originally invented for men. Did you know that?
Well, yeah, I know that, but then they had the trouble walking, and they said, well, let's give these to the women.
Give them to the women. Let's
Yes,
slow them
that's
down a
just
little
good.
bit.
That's exactly right.
Women are making too much progress. It's the 1500s. They're moving along a little too fast. Let's slow them down with some heels.
That's exactly right.
That's
All right,
my theory.
that should be. We've done enough damage for one podcast, I think.
That's my embarrassing story for the week. Yeah.
So we appreciate everybody joining us. Let's quickly remind you that we are all over social media. You can follow us at Steve and Bethany Hopecast on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. We've got our Patreon page set up where you can join us, and for as low as $5 a month, you can help us out, support the production of the podcast, but also get a lot of cool goodies, insider kind of stuff.
Yeah. Chance to get.
Including that Chris Tomlin interview.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, also that along with T-shirts, you can enter into our contest also that we're talking about at the beginning of the show. But there's a lot of really fun things that you can be a part of when you check out either patreon.com/Steve and Bethany Hopecast or our website, steveandbethany.com.
Yeah, that's the central place. If you want to find everything Steve and Bethany, just go to steveandbethany.com. And again, the Give One, Get One contest is underway right now. You can go there and register for that tumbler and that $50 Amazon gift card that will be yours to have for yourself and to give away as well. So we want you to go sign up, go join us there at steveandbethany.com.
Yeah, that's right. I think that about does it.
I think
Is
it does
that
too. I think
Episode
that's
6 is a wrap.
Yeah, I think it is a wrap.
Okay.
Let's go home. Good night, Olive Branch.
There you go.